and welcome back to Infamous Indie. I'm your host, That Dead Girl, and if this is your first time joining me here, basically what I do is I sit down with you all and I share with you a true crime story from my home state of Indiana. And apparently I'm being joined by a special co-host this week. That's my cat, Zero, who just happened to walk into frame. He doesn't really talk much, so he'll probably just sit there and clean himself or take a nap. I just actually dropped a little bit of a bonus video on the channel, so be sure that you guys do check that out. It's called Linda McDaniel and the Christmas Ribbon Killer. So originally I wanted to do a YouTube short or possibly a TikTok with that story, as there was not as much information on the case as I would have liked. But because of your guys' patience and bearing with me getting through the Sylvia Likens story, I decided to go ahead and work with what I had and just put up a quick video about the case. And if you've been keeping tabs on all things Infamous Indie, then you know that this week we will be talking about the disappearance of Lauren Spierer. Now, the disappearance of Lauren Spierer is a case that has garnered a lot of media attention over the last few years. And yes, I did say years because it, in fact, has been about 11 years since Lauren Spierer was last seen. Now, this case has always kind of intrigued me simply because of all of the theories surrounding Lauren's disappearance. Not only that, but the fact that the case still remains unsolved. And as I said, there are quite a few different theories as to what happened to Lauren, and I will try to cover all of them in this series. With that being said, it is a lot to unpack, so I will just get right down into the story. Lauren Spierer was born on January 17th, 1991, to parents Robert and Charlene. Lauren was actually born in Scarsdale, New York, but the family would later relocate to Edgemont. As a child, Lauren was said to be very strong-willed and very outgoing, and she also displayed very strong creative interests early on in her life. Lauren loved ballet and dancing, but her true passion in life was fashion and clothing. Lauren was definitely said to be a people person who was always meeting new people, always making new connections, and making new friends. While in high school, Lauren would actually frequently attend a summer camp in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. She attended the camp with her then boyfriend Jesse Wolfe and her other friend Jay Rosenbaum. And as I said, Lauren was definitely a people person, so it was no surprise that Lauren made a lot of friends during her summers there at the camp in Honesdale. So Lauren was actually pretty good at staying in contact with people that she had met, and a lot of those people that Lauren did go on to meet at summer camp would actually become her circle of friends while she was in college. Lauren was a very diligent student, and she would go on to graduate from Edgemont High School in 2009. Feeling the need to spread her wings, as most adolescents do, she applied and was accepted to Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. Lauren also was able to find an apartment at a place called Smallwood Plaza, which most of us today would now know that as the Avenue on College. During her time at Indiana University, Lauren would go on to study textile merchandising, and she also loved to volunteer in the university's Jewish community in her free time. So while there are a lot of positive things to talk about and a lot of positive things going on in Lauren's life at the moment, it's said that there was also a very dark side to the life that she led while she was away at college. And as I mentioned, she had obviously reconnected with a lot of the same people that she attended this summer camp with in Pennsylvania. She was even still dating the same boy, Jesse Wolfe, and she was still really close friends with Jay Rosenbaum. Now we are going to kind of delve into this very bizarre, very long timeline of events that occurred on the night that Lauren was last seen. Most of this video will be detailing that timeline. And as always, I want to make sure that I'm presenting to you guys all of the facts. And it starts out innocently enough. On June 2nd, 2011, Lauren Spierer and a few of her friends are actually drinking wine and watching some kind of sporting event on TV at Lauren's apartment. As I said, Lauren had a few friends over to her apartment, including a young man named David Ron. Now, David Ron was also a student at Indiana University, and he lived in the Smallwood Plaza complex, just like Lauren. So they're having wine, they're hanging out. It's a Thursday night. At some point, David and Lauren decide that they're going to leave Lauren's apartment and they're going to go meet up with Jay Rosenbaum at his place. So Jay Rosenbaum lives fairly close by at a place called 5 North Townhomes. So they leave Lauren's apartment and they go to meet up with Jay. When they arrive at Jay's, they meet up with him, and they also meet up with a mutual friend named Corey Rossman. They go inside Jay's apartment, and the party is in full swing. So allegedly, there are around 10 people inside of Jay's apartment, all of whom were drinking very heavily and said to be doing a lot of drugs. And allegedly, drugs such as cocaine and the anxiety medication Klonopin were readily available at this little shindig at Jay's place. So one can't help but wonder, while Lauren was attending this party, did she happen to take any of these illicit substances such as cocaine or Klonopin, both of which are pretty dangerous when combined with alcohol? So they're hanging out, they're partying, and 12:30 rolls around, and David Ron actually decides that he's just going to go back to his place. Security cameras actually see him enter his apartment, and he does not end up coming back out until around 11 a.m. the next morning. And I did want to add that David Ron did cooperate with police after Lauren's disappearance. And I bet you're wondering to yourself, didn't I say that Lauren Spierer had a boyfriend? And yes, I did. She's actually still dating Jesse Wolf, who was also her high school boyfriend. Now you may be thinking to yourself, why isn't he hanging out with his girlfriend? Is he really okay with his girlfriend going to all these random parties with all of these different young men? Well, apparently Lauren had tried to call Jesse Wolf at some point early on in the evening to try to get him to come and hang out, but he simply told her that, he was tired and he wasn't really feeling the party scene on that particular night, and that he was just going to stay home. But anyway, I digressed a little bit there. So at some point, Lauren actually leaves Jay Rosenbaum's apartment, and she heads to Kilroy's sports bar. Around 1:46 in the morning, Lauren can be seen via security cam entering this bar by herself. And it's important to add that she actually used a fake ID to gain access to this bar, because she was actually only 20 years old at the time. Legal drinking age in the state of Indiana, as you all know, is 21. So, fucking shame on you, Kilroy's. So, obviously, little is known about what happened during the time that Lauren was actually inside of the bar, but what is known is that at 2:27, Lauren can be seen again via security cam leaving Kilroy's with Corey Rossman. And if you'll remember, Lauren actually came to the bar alone. And I do want to bring up something that I feel is important. When Lauren leaves Kilroy's, she's barefoot. She apparently left her shoes behind. So I kind of looked into that a little bit, and apparently during this time, I don't know if they still do, Kilroy's actually had like a sand patio where you would take your shoes off and, hang out in the sand and drink, I guess. So anyway, it's thought that Lauren took off her shoes to stand on this patio, and she left them behind. Not only did she leave behind her shoes, she also leaves behind her cell phone as well. So to me, it's very clear at this point that Lauren is already pretty intoxicated. Corey Rossman and Lauren Spierer can both be seen via security cam footage, and basically Corey Rossman is simply walking Lauren back to Smallwood Plaza, back to her apartment. Around 2:30 a.m., they can be seen on camera again arriving at Smallwood Plaza, and they take the elevator up to the 5th floor, which is where Lauren's apartment was located. But before the two could actually reach Lauren's apartment, the two were confronted by a man named Zach Oates, as well as 3 other individuals who were with him at the time. Apparently, Corey and this Zach fellow end up having some words, and it leads to an altercation in where Zach ends up punching Corey in the head multiple times. Allegedly, Zach and these other men were concerned for Lauren and her well-being at this time. Zach went on to say that he could tell that Lauren was extremely intoxicated and that he was basically just trying to help her and did not appreciate the way that Corey Rossman was treating her. With that being said, Lauren and Corey never actually make it back to Lauren's apartment after this altercation. They actually end up getting back on the elevator and heading back down to the lobby. In later statements made by Corey's attorney, because he definitely lawyered up after Lauren disappeared, but in later statements, Corey claimed that he had actually received a concussion and suffered from memory loss after the altercation that he had with this Zach Oates person. At 2:42 a.m., Corey and Lauren can be seen exiting the Smallwood Plaza apartment complex. The two can be seen walking, and it's said that Corey was in pretty bad shape, as was Lauren, but as they're walking, he can be seen actively trying to hold Lauren up and support her while she's walking. A little while later, Lauren and Corey are spotted by an eyewitness sitting on someone else's front porch steps. And according to the same witness, Lauren actually fell over off of these steps and audibly hit her head. At 2:48 a.m., Lauren and Corey are on the move yet again, and they actually end up entering the alleyway between College and Morton Streets. When they got into the alleyway, reportedly Lauren actually had fallen face first onto the ground. And it said that she didn't even attempt to kind of like put her arms out in front of her to try and break her fall. Corey then proceeded to help Lauren up, but she would fall down again. The two continue on down the alleyway, and around 2:51 a.m., they can be seen via security camera exiting the alley and walking towards an empty lot that was right next to 5 North Townhomes. And Lauren's keys, as well as her purse, would later be found along this route. So, if you're keeping track at this point, Lauren has lost her shoes. She has left her cell phone behind, and now she's lost her purse and her keys. She's fallen off of some steps and hit her head. She's also fallen face first onto concrete in an alleyway and probably fallen several more times in between this time. Clearly, just based on the facts, Lauren Spierer at this time was very heavily intoxicated, and someone probably should have had enough sense to get her home and take care of her. Shortly after the two are seen by the empty lot, they then arrive back at Corey's apartment. Corey's roommate, Michael Beth, was actually home when the two returned. Michael stated that when the two arrived, that Corey was very, very inebriated and he was stumbling around and could barely walk. Actually, as Corey is walking up the stairs to the apartment, he ends up stopping and vomiting all over the stairwell. Michael Beth then took it upon himself to pick Corey up, take him upstairs, and put him to bed. Michael Beth claims that he tried his best to convince Lauren to stay at their apartment because she was way too wasted to go anywhere at this time. But he says that Lauren insisted on going back to her apartment, and she basically just told him, you know, my apartment is literally right there. I will be fine. You have nothing to worry about. Michael, who is obviously still worried, then ends up placing a call to Jay Rosenbaum to try to convince him to come over and help him deal with Lauren. He also stated that Lauren would not stop trying to coax him into coming back to her apartment with him to drink more alcohol. Jay Rosenbaum shows up, so Lauren ends up leaving Michael and Corey's place and going back to Jay's place with him. When Lauren arrived back at Jay's apartment, Jay had actually reported seeing that Lauren had a big bruise under one of her eyes. He told investigators that Lauren seemed unfazed by this injury and that she couldn't even remember how she had gotten it. So at 4:15 a.m., two calls are actually made from Jay Rosenbaum's phone. One call was made to David Ron, who, if you remember, that's who Lauren started out her night with. And another call was made to another friend. Jay Rosenbaum claims that Lauren Spierer is actually the person who made these two calls. At 4:30 a.m., Jay Rosenbaum actually claims to stand on his balcony and watch Lauren as she walks home. He claims that she was last seen headed south towards the intersection of 11th and College. And this is supposedly the last time that Lauren Spierer would be seen alive. And as she's walking away from Jay's apartment, he just remembers that Lauren is wearing a white t-shirt, black leggings, and that she did not have any shoes on. So around 4:35 a.m., a homeless person reports hearing a scream just west of where Lauren Spierer was last seen. It's not clear whether or not this tip was ever verified, but what is clear is that the man that made this report mysteriously died 2 days later. On the afternoon of June 3rd, Lauren's then boyfriend Jesse Wolfe repeatedly tries to get a hold of Lauren. He ends up calling her cell phone, and much to his surprise, an employee from Kilroy's sports bar picks up Lauren's phone and informs him that the phone had been left there the night before. So obviously Jesse is becoming a little more concerned. So he contacts Lauren's roommate and they plan to meet up on campus so that she can give him the key to their apartment so he can go and look for Lauren there. Obviously, he goes back to the apartment and obviously Lauren Spierer is not there. And finally, around 4:30 p.m., Lauren's friends, and I use that word pretty loosely, finally decide to file a missing persons report with the Bloomington Police Department. Lauren Spierer was just 2.5 blocks away from her apartment at the time of her disappearance. Now, obviously, this leads us to many questions. Was Lauren kidnapped while walking back to her apartment? Did all of these young men and so-called friends that she encountered throughout the night, did they really have her best interest at heart? Or was there something more sinister afoot? Whatever the case may be, it's important to note that there are actually 10 persons of interest involved in this investigation. And rest assured, we will be digging into all of these people in part 2 of this video. So I think that that is a pretty good stopping point for part 1. We gave a little bit of background on Lauren, and it was just really important to me to establish this timeline of events so that you guys can get a feel for the state of Lauren Spierer's mind during the time of her disappearance. Obviously, this is a young, vibrant girl who has been very successful in college, has a lot of friends, you know, and it sounds to me like she was really just trying to go out and have a good time. I would never be one to judge, as I myself have gotten white girl wasted plenty of times in my day. So I don't feel as though Lauren should be judged for that either. I've read a lot of things about this case, and something that kind of comes up quite frequently is, well, maybe she'd still be here if she wouldn't have gotten so drunk or taken drugs or whatever. It doesn't matter, you know, like what a person does, no one deserves to just disappear from the face of the earth, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I do believe that Lauren, at this point, 11 years later, is actually presumed to be dead. But since no body was ever found or has ever been found, who can really say? But like I said, in part 2, we will dig into those persons of interest and a few of the theories revolving around Lauren's disappearance. Thank you guys for sitting down with me tonight. Also, I think I mentioned earlier in the video, but don't forget to check out my little bonus video about the Christmas ribbon killer. I will have part 2 of this story up for you guys sometime later in the week. If you are new here, always, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with all things Infamous Indie. And with that being said, if you like what I do here at Infamous Indie, please always do feel free to share my content with other people who love true crime as much as I do. And as always, stay spooky, keep it creepy, and watch your back out there because it's a crazy fucking world.